Hello there, and welcome to Corey Loses for a brand new preview playthrough in Thrawn's Revenge version 3.2. We are going to be playing as the Pentastar Alignment in this upcoming build of the mod, so everything you're going to be seeing here is still a work in progress, but there's a lot of cool stuff to look at. We've seen some of it in the Republic playthrough that's currently going on the channel for Fall of the Republic, but there's some other stuff going on here in Thrawn's Revenge as well, so I've been excited to get into this one for a while. So we are going to play in Empire's Essence as the Pentastar Alignment on hard, starting in the first era. So there are going to be a few things to look at here, but I have not put in the Imperial Government mechanic yet. I have disabled that for this playthrough, because it's still a lot more work in progress than some other stuff, but there's a lot of changes to how certain units are balanced and how units as a whole are balanced. Including the bomber reworks if you haven't seen those in the Republic playthrough yet so far. The Pentastar Alignment as a faction is a lot more focused on fighters, so I figured this would be a good one to show that off as well, so it's a good thing that it won the poll. But we've got the brand new Warlord rosters that we've announced recently, both in space and on ground, so there's a lot of new units to look at. We were able to actually get, I think, all of the main Pentastar Alignment vehicles done before starting this playthrough, so there's a lot to look at there. So we're going to get into it. Let's load the map up. I did want to stay on Empire's Essence just so we had a large but relatively small compared to the other Progressives map, so that if anything does go wrong, because again, it is a work in progress build, we'd be able to be a bit less likely to run into major problems in a super extended campaign. We'll probably do like a full Art of War or Empire's End campaign as we get a little bit further in development, probably as the New Republic or the Empire. We'll see what happens there, or maybe even the Hapens, because it won't be too long before we're able to do a Hapen preview playthrough as the new faction that's being, or the new playable faction for 3.2. But we're going to get a message from our good friend Mr. Kane. Good day, Commander. I regret not being able to greet you in person. However, I'm currently in the midst of negotiations aboard my flagship, the Reaper, to bring the local sectors and companies into line. The talks are progressing well, however, I will be unable to assist you until we are finished. I trust you will be able to contain our enemies until my return. So on week 20, we're going to get Kane and the Reaper and some other heroes, just like before. But we do have some other new heroes that we have access to right now. Since the last time we've played, at least. I forget if they were our version, but we have Utric, who's a Star Destroyer hero, and we have Noda, who's an AT-AT hero. So we've got a good variety there. We're going to start off by moving some of our ships into some border positions, just so we are a little bit safer here. We don't need to have stuff on the back lines. But one of the other things that I do for these preview playthroughs is for people who are patrons on Patreon of the channel, channel members here on YouTube, or Twitch subscribers, not Twitch survivors, is they're able to name a ship for the playthrough, and then I code that in as its own unit. So you'll see a lot of ships with names like the Bane of the Maw and Kane's Pleasure Yacht, which will have custom names as we go through the series. Those are not in the released mod, those are just here in the preview playthroughs. If you would like to get one in the preview playthrough, there's a link in the description with all the options and how that all works. But yeah, so as you can see, we've got a bunch of new ground vehicles already placed. Jameis has some of the old roster stuff, because I missed that when doing the starting forces. But let's see if we can find a planet that already has a vehicle factory. So there's a light vehicle factory. We have the ATDP, the ATPT, the TIE Mauler, and we have the GABA 18, which I don't think we have any placed on the map, so I will just grab one of those. And I don't know that we have any other heavy factories, so let's turn on all those. Yaga Miner might be a good place. You know what, let's actually build some vehicle production on Cernpidal. Let's get 2 heavy factories there. And here at Yaga Minor, we'll get 2 advanced factories. Our economy isn't in the best place right now. So let's build Let's build a trade port at Anx Minor, and we'll try to take Bimiel and Utric sooner than later. Because the way trade ports actually work now is you get money based on how many connections there are. So right now we're actually going to get 300 credits, and it'll be up to 500 credits once we take Bimiel and Utric. The only problem there currently is that the numbers have to be calculated differently per Galactic Conquest because of how those numbers are actually obtained by the code. So that might be a little bit off right now because it's divided by the max number of... like there's a division somewhere in the code. I wrote it and I forget how it works. But based on the max number of trade routes in the Galactic Conquest, because you can't just get the regular number from perceptions in the game. You have to do a bunch of weird math to get it. So we have to have that kind of set per GC. And I think the numbers it's currently using are based on Art of War or Essence of War. So it might be 1 or 2 off there, which means we'll get a weird number of credits. But it shouldn't be too bad either way. On the space side, we have a lot of different units compared to what you normally, or what you would have seen in the Pentastar Alignment before. So we are, I think, going to focus on production of structures first. So let's get a tax facility there. A tax facility is already there. I don't want to drop our influence too low, but or actually Jameis. Yeah, let's get a tax facility there. Bastion. We can get one here. Helska. Probably not worth getting one on Helska. So the way the tax facilities work is they give plus 100% of the base income from that planet, which for Helska is 0. So building the tax agency, it's not going to get you any money. But if you were to build a trade port, then you'd get the 200 credits from that connection. So let's start off with a nice little battle over on Generis. The AI does it to us whenever we play the New Republic, so we're going to do it to them. We got a lot of good anti-fighter, a lot of good fighter usage, and that's kind of the Pentastar Alignment's bread and butter. There's one other type of economic structure we haven't set up yet, which is going to be essentially mining, like actual mining facilities, instead of just reskin tax agencies, where that's going to be more of a flat income cost, and it'll be like a per planet decision rather than just available everywhere. So there'll probably be different like flavor versions per different planets, but that'll be a thing we get to later. So Kane's Pleasure Yacht, you can get in there. Then we have an Evanclad, Jackson. We'll throw in some fighter support with Balance Pass. I'll bring the bombers. Indefatigable. Ride of the Valkyrie. And we'll let it run out. We have Ace Striker of Spades as kind of like a tankier, or the Precursors as kind of a tankier frigate option for them. But this isn't going to be the most opposition for us. Bombers, you can start heading back down there. And I'm going to throw in Scotsman, Base Cops, and Tauntaun there. Okay, so they are wisely leaving. I'm not actually going to try to destroy the engines on this. They're going to retreat to the other side of the galaxy. So if they want to cause problems for other people, at least they got the assault frigate out. I don't want to be mean to them. I'd like to fight the New Republic later on. So we'll let them carry on with their little games until it's time for us to fight them properly. But we can pretty effectively push out our borders, at least one here. Ord Mantell, I don't know that we want to defend Ord Mantell as much as we'd want to defend Orinda. So opening up it to like Bilbringi and Burita, that's gonna be something. I think what we're gonna do first is head into Zinja's territory. So we'll probably build up Orinda, and we will build up Maybe we'd get down to Ithor. We definitely want Utric for the extra shipyard. So, Grant, you're gonna go into this fleet, and we're gonna take Jarek and his buddies over to Generis. Means you guys can combine down there. And how do we want to... I think Ordrassi is another place we can... Ordrassi and Cernpidal. They're going to be decent for trade port income for us. Like, it's not bad to build them anywhere, but they're still limited. So, we'll probably want to shuffle them around as we go. And that'll give us some extra income. Not the most extra income, but it's something. Alright, and we've got an army trooper platoon. You know what, I won't use that yet. We're gonna get the C-10 siege tower, the mobile artillery hover tank, the ATDP, and anything else new in here? Not quite yet.
Yes, sir.
So Philoraptor and T-78 have been working pretty quickly to get the Pentastar Alignment units done. We were trying to focus on those ones first. So there's a lot of unique ones here. But they have... there's a lot of like Galactic Battlegrounds units that we've kind of looked to for this. There's the ATDP, obviously. One of the things that gets brought up a lot is like, oh, well, isn't the ATDP just canon? The ATDP and the Legends versions, like the ATAR, the ATDP is also a Legends unit. There are actually some differences between the ATDP and ATAR. It's not just a different name for the same thing. So when we were discussing the which one we wanted for the mod, the ATDP fit better. It's in Legends. It's from the Imperial Handbook, which brings a few things back from Rebels, especially into Legends. So both are Legends. We don't use the ATAR anywhere. It'd probably be a little confusing for people to have to get used to having them both there. Yeah, so Philoraptor and T-78 did a lot of work on a lot of these ground assets. And we're working through the rest for the other factions. Because there was something like 20 new vehicles between all of the... we need to deploy you here. Get out of there. I'm going to send the ATDP over there with them, and we're going to try to get that. Alright, you... over there. Siege towers are quite good, but they do have to be deployed to shoot, so they're not good at chasing. But if we can plop them in a hole like this, they're going to be pretty decent. Ah, run out of there. Run out of there. Alright, we're going to want the artillery over here. And we want that landing zone. Jarek, we're going to want you now too. Jarek's going to be able to handle those infantry. Our poor ATDPs. Alright, we're going to want you set up there. You back here. You guys can go over this way. You're not... none of what we have there is really good against infantry. Mostly anti-vehicle. We can still get over there. Alright, let's start on that. And Jarek, come on over here. Give us some help. You go on that. We do have some really good anti-infantry options with the TIE Mauler, and we have a few other options. The ATPT, I don't know if we've actually made this passive yet. I've been talking about it in the Republic playthrough, how the point defense ability on that is going to be an automatic one, so that makes them even better against like rocket troopers. Because with the Pentastar Alignment on ground, you're pretty focused on using vehicles, and then infantry are more of a supportive role, whereas like Zinj, you're more infantry centric to begin with. So the factions are all a lot more focused on like what they're good and bad at, rather than just being a collection of everyone has every different role. Alright, we're gonna want to just run over some of these. There we go. There we go. So all that stuff should make them a lot better again, or the ATPTs a lot more useful. Because before, like the point defense stuff was really helpful, it was just hard to really get as much use out of because you'd have to micro them a bit more, and with smaller units like that are a bit more numerous, microing is going to be a bit harder. So that isn't really the area that a lot of people want to spend their time, is micromanaging the ability on the ATPT. For larger stuff that you have fewer of, we'd be more likely to use, or we are more likely to use abilities that are more manually handled. Did I just get Jarek stuck? Nope. There he goes. Gotta let this pass here.
Reporting. Scouting. On my way. Scanning area. Yes, sir. On the move.
Overall, I do really like this map. There are a lot of canyons, but it can be a little bit easy to defend because of some of that. But you have some pretty reasonable access between the different paths, so you're not like super overcommitting on any of it. I want to go up these ones. There we go. We'll get some more stormtroopers here. So stormtroopers you can't build. There will probably remain some as starting forces, but for the non-main empire, so the main empire gets stormtroopers all the time. For the other factions, it's going to, as a buildable thing, they're unlocked through legitimacy, which is the imperial government mechanic. So there'll be more information on that. Probably like a dedicated standalone video in the future. Probably not more than a couple weeks away. Yeah, so you're basically competing with the other Imperial factions to show who's the real Imperial faction. And like, the main Empire will start off with stormtroopers, but the other factions, by like doing stuff to show that you're the legitimate government, then you'll start having access to buildable stormtrooper corps. Yeah, get over there. Alright, siege tower, we want you up there. Artillery, we want you up there. And I think we want to get those repairing. So stormtroopers, come on up. We'll get the ATDPs there. You know what? More stormtroopers. Damn it. Alright. There we go.
Form up. Fall out. Attack that target.
They're mostly coming from that direction.
Roger that. Roll out. Deploy.
One thing we do need to do is go through a lot of the maps and like smooth out any areas where there's height differences like this in playable zones. Because unfortunately EAW does not work well with that. So height differences were meant to keep
Bomber squadron.
to like the main differences in overall height between playable areas. So if there's like a ramp up to somewhere, there'll be some of those. But even some of those were reducing. Like EAW doesn't really know how to make units adjust for like if there's a unit here and a unit here, they're just going to shoot into the ground. So we don't want maps to be like completely flat everywhere, but we want to keep it only to like the major important differences for map flow rather than for like things that are meant for aesthetic differences that interfere with gameplay effectiveness. Alright, let's move the siege tower up a little bit. And you go up there.
Yes, sir. Changing course.
There have also been some changes that'll hopefully help with AI force distribution in the last few days. So those are all still pretty experimental. They'll probably have to be tweaked a fair bit, especially with like some of the unit category mass and everything. But adjustments that still need to be made there. But it's something we kind of play with every release. And it'll take more testing to know what's working and what's not with it. So we're kind of being guinea pigs on that here. But like I said, it's all work in progress. So you're going to see a lot of stuff that is probably kind of janky. But it looks like we've got a good handle on the situation here. Ooh, I forgot to add the patron units to the bombardment available units. So we're going to lose out on that for a little while.
Yes, sir. I copy.
Alright, start walking up there. And there seems to be a field base down that way. Oh, we got him. Yeah, ATBTs are really good anti-infantry. Just because, like, they have the bombs, they have the healing, and they can shut down anti-vehicle weaponry. So using them as support with your other vehicles is going to be really helpful and really important.
System control achieved.
Alright. That's good there. And I think we might pop in and see how Utric's doing.
I see.
You know what? I'm just gonna sell those. Not the stormtroopers. I don't want that. Anything that we're not supposed to have. We'll definitely use the Nemesis gunship with the next one. So we'll pop these guys up into another one there, because I think the Nemesis gunship might be my favorite of the new units, at least for the PA. The siege tower is cool. Like there's some of the other units are used in kind of a different way than you use a lot of other units. Like the siege tower is just as a kind of mobile emplacement, but still operates out of one area. That's nifty. Let's drop in Party Starter. We don't want them getting away. They don't want us getting away. We don't have as many of our carriers here, so this is a less standard fleet for the Pentastar Alignment, so... Fighter Torpedo Sphere. We got 2 of those ones. Fighter Blob. I might have accidentally placed that one twice, or I did. Rise of the Federation. Arcade. Bombers go burr. Warlord, Rico, Brant,
If you insist.
go independent testers, edgier than a Sith Lord, Raid, go away, I might be a Viking, Glory Hammer, it's fine, oh, you're not Revenge, I'm not sure which you are. This is suck these lasers, Seppies. Apocalypse.
Heading to destination.
Devastator.
We're moving out.
Alright, heavy bombers.
At the ready. Those
Get in there.
tanks are the primary
Interceptor
target.
here.
And regular bombers get in there as well.
Cannon banks.
Thrawn reporting.
IPV reporting.
Escort carrier
Star
standing by.
Destroyer standing by. Moving to
Alright.
coordinates.
Shouldn't have put them in that formation. But yeah, so the way that like dedicated bombers are defined now in the mods are whether they have the proton rockets and bombs rather than proton torpedoes. So proton torpedoes are saved for fighter bombers, which are treated as fighters for complement purposes. Which means that factions that are more fighter focused, like the Pentastar Alignment or the New Republic, they're going to get
Course set.
more support out of their fighters against capital ships, because you have stuff like X-Wings and E-Wings that'll have proton torpedoes. Whereas other factions that are less focused on that, they're going to be less likely to have that kind of thing.
Power engines are disabled.
Alright.
Getting locked.
Because like the New Republic's more of the quality over quantity fighter faction, whereas the Pentastar Alignment's more the quantity over quality fighter faction, as it stands right now. Like, one of the goals with the fighter bomber changes was to also reduce the overall amount you'd get during battles, which we're still going to be tuning a fair bit, but like the Pentastar Alignment is always going to be a little bit on the higher end of that. Because like you're probably going to be using a lot of vendors, a lot of acclimators, a lot of Ton Falx, so they're always going to have a bit higher executors. But with bombers especially, the pop cap cost of those has gone up, so we're still tuning exactly like where the numbers are going to fall in terms of like upfront versus reserve fighters. For dedicated carriers, you're getting generally 50% bombers, 50% fighters. For non-dedicated carrier capital ships, it's usually going to be 50% fighters, 50% interceptors. For some stuff like the ISTs that are like not quite dedicated carriers, but kind of semi-carriers, you get like half a bomber squadron from the IST. So if you want to have fighter and bomber focused strategies, it's a lot easier to know like what you're supposed to do for that. Like carriers will be, you don't have to have quite as many carriers to have a lot of bomber damage out of them, because they're more focused on that than they were before, where it was like usually 20 to 33% were fighters or bombers. So you needed like a higher critical mass before you get to that. Whereas if you're not doing a fighter focused strategy, you still have some tools against it, because the fighters and the fighters you do get are less split as well. They're more dedicated towards like intercepting and stuff.
Are our target.
Engaging the enemy.
We can bring these guys up a bit. And we've still got our kind of heavier hitters here, along with some precursors. Ionized there. That's what that name is supposed to mean.
Tightening up.
Awaiting your orders. Enemies in range.
And as far as the Pentastar Alignment goes with offensive frigates, the Enforcer is kind of their main choice there. You have the Enforcer and the Dreadnought. Because the idea there was that we don't want to give them too many non-carrier options, and we want the Enforcer to be kind of prioritized there because it's such an iconic unit. So if you want to have those kind of supportive units, not supportive, but like the non-carrier frigates, you're going to index heavier on the Enforcer as the Pentastar Alignment, so that fits from both a gameplay and lore perspective. So a lot of thought went into figuring out like who's going to get what exactly and what's that all going to do. I spoke about it in the roster videos directly, but when we were setting up these rosters, the first questions we asked were, how do we want the faction to play? And no one was allowed to say a unit name when defining that. So we were setting it up in a way that we'd be able to define, like, you use your carriers this way, you have this kind of access to these types of ships, and how do those all fit together, before ever saying like, oh, well, in book whatever, this faction used this unit. Because, like, you could make that justification for pretty much anyone using anything, so it was very secondary. Where there was something like the Enforcer, where it's more of a clear connection between a faction, like the Enforcer for the Pentastar Alignment, the Clutch Fighter for the Greater Maldrude. Then we tried to like take that into account when figuring out like which unit are we going to use where, but the main emphasis here was entirely gameplay. Bring in So You've Chosen Death, $dollars Revenge, get a little bit more damage out on these goals. So like the Pentastar Alignment, we tried to give them a carrier option on essentially like every tier. So they have the capital carrier in the Secutor, they have a heavier frigate carrier in the Venator, a lighter frigate carrier in the Ton Falk. So they have a lot of flexibility in their carriers, whereas other factions can build carrier-centric fleets. It's just their options for that are going to be less flexible and less available. So they're a bit more shoehorned to, if you want to do something that's outside their main meta, then it's a little bit more difficult to make those varied enough to support different engagements. Like, it's kind of possible for everyone to do everything, they still skew certain ways, but there's a lot more emphasis on making sure that each faction has its defined play style. And with the New Republic and Empire in particular, they will tend to be a little bit more generalist in what they have, so they'll have like a decent selection of everything, because those are going to be factions that especially new players are more drawn to. So giving them more tools both just makes sense thematically and makes sense for like the not quite tutorial factions, but stuff where people are going to be less experienced with like how do you use a specific type of ship. So like they still have their own kind of defined playstyle elements, but they're usually a bit more flexible in having like broader access to different stuff. Like the New Republic, as I was talking about earlier, is more of a fighter-focused faction for their damage early in particular, but then you got stuff like the Nebula later. So they're still more of a quality over quantity faction, whereas the Empire is more of a quantity over quality, but a little bit more access to tools as the Empire than as the Pentastar Alignment in different categories. Which doesn't mean they have more access to raw power overall, just that it kind of changes the way that power is distributed. Because there's advantages and disadvantages to having more generalist stuff. But it looks like we've got ourselves a Utric. They've got themselves a Lancer here, so we're going to need the Precursor to deal with that. Because Lancers and Tartans both have really good point defense. So you can see the amount of bombs this Lancer's taking down from our bombing runs is quite high. So if you can throw a couple Lancers into a fleet, that's going to be a big problem for a fighter-focused fleet, which is why you need some extra stuff like the Precursors and the Dreadnoughts and the Enforcer for taking out those kind of things that are going to shut down your fighter focus. We lost one of the fighter torpedo spheres, but we had two, so it's not really a loss, is it? Alright. So I think we will take Utric right now. And I'm going to start training a couple Enforcer, because Nolan set up some new art for them there. So we'll be able to take Utric, then we'll take Bimiel. And from there, we're going to plan our further incursions into Zinj's territory. Madrid took Orjum. It can be a bit weird coming from Fall of the Republic into TR and seeing like someone took something. Because there's only one faction that can really take it from. In my current playthrough as the Republic, they can only take it from me. The Republic took over Sky. Where's Merkier? Roll. Alright, just wanted Saris over here. So let's get Saris in. Have some decent units, but there's two infrastructures. Infrastructures. Alright, Saris, get down to that. Let's get a Nemesis gunship and a TIE Mauler and TIE Crawler, I think. We'll use the Gabba once we have a bit more pop cap. I think we'll bring in an ATPT as well.
What do you wish? Moving. It is about time.
I think the ATPTs become one of my favorite supportive units. Oh, run those over. Alright, good thing they didn't go for Saris, because that could have been bad. Down there. Alright, Nemesis gunship. You may recognize it as a design from Force Unleashed. Model and texture by Philo. Raptor. So I should say their full names. Alright, and we'll pop the siege tower down here. We will Saris to capture that, and let's get a Gabba 8. So they're not the most powerful airspeeders, but they're airspeeders. PA has a lot of variety in like what they have for vehicles. Alright, let's get all the crawlers around here. Gabbas, we don't really need them for scouting, but we can go and pick away at some of these guys. They're going to be pretty good at picking off some infantry for us. Especially stragglers like that. Alright, and ATPTs, go and help them. Okay, run over those infantry. Gotta be careful of that AT-AT. Between our TIE crawlers and the siege tower, we should be good on that. But I don't wanna risk it too much. Nemesis over here.
Changing course. Bombing run available. Yes, sir.
All right. I'm gonna hit the base with this. We'll go with the Moth Palace. And Gabbas. Yo, Gabba. That's an AA turret. We don't want that, actually. Want that.
Activating. Copy. Targets engaged. Reporting in unit destroyed. Attacking. Ready to go.
Oh, get out of there. Get out of there. Alright. We got some anti-infantry tanks. They are not good against vehicles. Back, and I guess we're gonna get another siege tower down here and some ATDPs. We're gonna have to kill their AATs. I guess they got that factory on the other side, yeah. Guys, get to safety. And over there. We'll probably use the orbital bombardment on the field base over here. You guys can still kill that. Each tower is going to take the structures. This. Like the ATDPs are, they're quite good against vehicles. Okay, we got that. Most of the structures. Got the AT-AT. You guys gotta come and kill this infantry for us. Which should now be easy enough for you. Alright, Nemesis gunship, you can go help on the other side more, I think. Well, that sucks. Okay, sorry about that. The game dropped, but we are back where we were. We have all the same planets. Forces are a little bit different in where they are now. But that's going to do it for our first episode here. So aside from that little hiccup at the end, hope you guys have enjoyed this look at what's coming in Thrawn's Revenge. The next episode will hopefully be up tomorrow. We should have 2 or 3 this week alongside the Republic playthrough. Then next week I will be recording the episodes live on Twitch. We'll probably do 2 Republic and 2 Pentastar when doing those streams. That's usually on Monday. So if you want to follow over at twitch.tv/CoreyLoses, the stream schedule goes up every week, and you can watch these episodes as they happen. But thank you for watching. Hope to see you next time. Bye, everyone.